Canelo Alvarez versus John Ryder. This one is happening in Guadalajara, Mexico, and I'm sure it's going to be a sold-out crowd, right? Canelo fighting in front of his home crowd makes this fight that much tougher for John Ryder. Let's get into it. Let's start with Canelo Alvarez. 58 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws, 39 wins by way of knockout. Whenever I see Canelo's record, I'm always like, wait a minute, like this cat has 60, he's been in 62 fights and he's only 32. That's one thing that I respect about Canelo, and I think we all have to respect about Canelo, whether you're a fan or not, whether you like him or not, is, man, that's, the man likes to fight. He's not afraid to fight, right? If he says, hey, I'm going to fight 3 or 4 times this year, he's going to fight 3 or 4 times that year. He's going to find a way to make it happen. I mean, he's been around for a while now because he started when he was, 18 years old. So we've been able to see him grow inside the ring over the years. We've seen him in 2011 when he won the WBC light middleweight title when he dominated Matthew Hatton. Right? You could see the combinations was on display in that fight. Had Hatton bloody and confused in the 4th round. We saw that patented Canelo left hand to the body and then to the head. He didn't get the stoppage that fight, but we saw a young, hungry, and talented and skillful fighter, and we saw it in display in that fight in a pressure situation. A couple years later, he fights Sugar Shane Mosley, an older Sugar Shane Mosley, but it's still Sugar Shane, right? And he fought very well that fight, right? Even as a young 21-year-old, he moved with the poise and the belief and the patience that not a lot of fighters his age usually has. Again, that was another fight where he was just faster than Shane, stronger than Shane, more accurate at that stage in their career. Shane was 40, Canelo was 21. You can't beat Father Time, right? And on that night, Canelo showed that, hey, I'm this guy coming up, and you got to watch out for me. You got to look out for him because I'm here to take everything that is in front of me. Canelo was the better fighter on that occasion. Canelo was in control of the fight. As the fight went on, he started to let his hands go a lot more. Not to mention, there was a head clash that opened up a cut in Canelo's face above his eye. So now he was fighting through a little bit of that adversity in that high pressure situation. The experience he needed was starting to form. But that was a fight, right, where people were saying, man, this young man could beat Floyd Mayweather. I remember hearing that, and my boy said that to me. Said, I think Canelo might be able to beat Floyd Mayweather. And you know what I said? I said, okay, put your money where your mouth is. And I'm not a betting man. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not a betting man, but I said, okay, if that's how you feel, then put your money where your mouth is. Canelo, after he beat Sugar Shane, fought Josecito Lopez, dominates him, stops him within 5 rounds, then steps into the ring next with Floyd Mayweather. Now, one of the strengths that Canelo has, right, is he capitalizes off his opponent's weaknesses. He baits them in, right? Or he catches them when they overcommit. And for a split second, it might seem like they're in control. And then Canelo, at the right moment, seizes the opportunity, and then boom, he's in control of that fight. But his opponent has to make a mistake. Floyd Mayweather does not make a whole lot of mistakes. Floyd Mayweather, throughout his whole career, man, he was just one step ahead of his opponents, and he would make the right adjustments at the right time. Floyd was extremely disciplined, and he may get sucked into fighting his opponent's fight for maybe a round, but then after that, he regroups and he goes back to fighting his fight. Floyd Mayweather is one of the most disciplined fighters that we have ever seen today, and because of that discipline, that night was just not going to be a night where Canelo Alvarez was going to win that fight. Floyd countered him, jabbed him, and frustrated Canelo for 12 rounds. Personally, man, no one converts defense to offense simultaneously like Floyd Mayweather. Canelo just didn't have enough. He didn't accumulate enough over the years. Even though he was getting some good wins against some great opposition, he didn't have enough experience and hadn't fought anyone similar to Floyd's giftedness in the ring and the IQ and the skill set that Floyd Mayweather has. It's tough to beat someone when you've never experienced it. Canelo was still still very young. But after that fight, man, Canelo went on a tear after that. You could see that some of the stuff that Floyd was using against him to beat him, he took a little bit of that and started to apply it in his game plan, in his movements, in his patterns, right? And he would kind of mesh what worked for Floyd, but worked against him, and he would put it in his game plan. That's one thing that I like about Canelo, is he takes a little bit from each fighter. If he sees something working against him, he says, man, I like that. Let me just go ahead and take a little bit of that and see how I can implement it in my game plan. And man, for the next 8 years, Canelo not only challenged himself, but rose to the occasion. There were some controversial fights along the way with Erislandy Lara and the first Triple G fight. And not only was he winning fights, right? He said, man, I want to be undisputed, right? At 68, I want to be undisputed. And he went to go after the champions in their home backyard and took their title. He says, I'm coming for all the titles. Knocked out Rocky Fielding in 3, took his belt, defended his title against Daniel Jacobs, and put on a great display of defense and head movement. Arguably the best defensive fight that I've seen from Canelo. Then he moves up to fight Sergey Kovalev, the bone crusher, and an aging Kovalev, but a guy who could still punch. Knocked him out in the 11th round. Then he goes and punches up Callum Smith. Emphasis on the word punched up, because he punched up Callum Smith, hit him everywhere so much that Callum's bicep was busted up, right? So then he takes the belt from Billy Joe Saunders, who was talking heavy, whole bunch of stuff Billy Joe was talking. Canelo is a slow starter, and Billy Joe was able to steal some of those early rounds. I think Billy Joe was a pretty good boxer, was boxing very well until he got caught with an uppercut and busted his eye, and we still haven't seen Saunders since. Then he goes to fight Caleb Plant, and again, Caleb was doing very well early, but as the fight goes on and Canelo starts to let his hands go and apply the pressure and mix that with his accuracy, once he connects and weakens you, man, he knows how to close out the show when his opponents are hurt. When Canelo gets close to you, that's when you have to be wary of what is about to happen and what could happen. After that, he goes to test himself against Dimitri Bivol in a fight where Bivol was just like Floyd, was very disciplined, and he was the bigger guy as well, and it clearly showed. Bivol isn't going to fight anyone's fight. He's going to fight his fight. He's going to stay within himself and his skill set. He's fast, he's strong, and throws good combinations, and he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. There was a sequence when Canelo was on the ropes, right? And Bivol fired off a 6-piece combination and stepped back and just waited to see what Canelo was going to do. Hey, Canelo was taunting him, saying, hey, come in, man. Come in one more time. And Bivol just said, look, I've seen this too many times. I come in and then you clip me. That's not what's going to happen. And Bivol just stayed reset and got out of the way. But again, that was a fight where the scorecards were a little bit too close. But again, a fight that you have to respect Canelo, because he went up to test himself. In his last fight against Triple G, I didn't mind that fight. I know a lot of people didn't want that fight, but those guys had history, and Triple G was kind of aging out. Let these men do what they have to do and then call it a day, right? But Canelo, that fight, man, he just dominated. It wasn't that Canelo fought greatly, but Triple G just looked older. He looked slower and a little less engaged. And you can see that, man, his best years were kind of behind him. He looked great physically coming in and said all of the right things, but I felt like it was clear to see that, you know, you are not the Triple G of old. And personally, like, I think Canelo was locked in for the first 4, 5, 6 rounds. But to me, it just looked like he just did enough to win the fight. Didn't seem like he pressed the fight, just took what was given to him, fought smartly, fought effectively, and just did enough to get the win against Triple G. You know, Triple G took some big shots, and he's always got a great chin. He's always going to try to fight when he's in the fight, but he just didn't have it that night. A lot of people were also saying, you know, if this fight was at 160 pounds, Triple G would have dominated. And yeah, I don't agree with that. I think the outcome would have still been the same, you know. But the thing is, Canelo has been in a lot of fights, man. He's seen a lot of different styles, and there's nothing that he hasn't seen inside of the ring. And he's coming off wrist surgery, so we'll see how he looks. And he said he wants Bivol again, but you know, what's going to make Bivol take the rematch? You know, we don't know what Canelo is going to look like after all of the surgeries. We know what he can do. We know the skill set. We know the talent. We know everything that Canelo can do, but what will he look like at this stage in his career? So we'll see if he can make a statement this weekend. Let's talk about his opponent, John Ryder. 32 wins, 5 losses, 18 wins by way of a knockout. He's been stopped once, dating back to when he fought Nick Blackwell in 2015, which he was doing really well in that fight. I thought he was winning the fight, then he got clipped. And I thought that stoppage was a little premature anyway, but you got to respect Ryder, because sometimes when people see your record, they kind of only gravitate to the losses and they kind of write you off, right? But he's a guy that he's had to fight back and earn his way back into title contention. He's had to fight his way back every step of the way. This is a guy who the people that he's lost to have been champions in their own right. All the top guys in the country. So there's no shame in that, right? And when he fought Callum Smith, that was a close fight, despite what some of those scorecards say. Ryder is a guy who, he just works, man. Like, he's not fancy. He's not a pretty boxer, but he just grinds you down. Stick to his game plan and just works. He's going to try to get in close and make it an ugly fight, make it more of a brawling fight than a boxing match. If you let John Ryder get on the inside, man, he's going to make it a tough night. He's going to frustrate you, going to use those veteran tactics. When he fought Callum Smith, I thought that fight was a lot tougher fight for Callum Smith than Callum Smith thought that it would be, because Ryder was breaking the distance and making it tough for Smith to just box and move and use his jab. And he can take some shots, because Smith popped him with some good, clean, flush shots right on the chin. But he did a great job of making Callum Smith fight his fight. He didn't get the win, but he did some good things in that fight. A few fights after that, he goes to fight Danny Jacobs, an older Danny Jacobs, but a solid test for Ryder. He hasn't done well against a top level of competition, and Jacob, who has been in the ring with Canelo Alvarez and Triple G. So this was going to see, can he compete with some of those top level international guys, right? You could see Ryder was the bigger, stronger man, but Jacobs was the better boxer, more skilled. And early on, he looked sharp in that fight. Ryder was having some problems cutting off the ring early, couldn't really close the distance. Jacob saw what was coming and moved out of the way and made sure that he wasn't going to get sucked into fighting his fight. In the first half of the fight, man, I thought Jacobs was in control. I thought he was up on the cards easy. You know, he was having success with that double jab and then following up with the opposite hand, right? And I'm like, man, that's a move that Canelo likes to do, except Canelo puts a little bit more pop when he does it. But one of the interesting thing about that fight with Daniel Jacobs was he went from orthodox to southpaw. And when he went to southpaw in the second half of the fight, Ryder started to gain momentum and Ryder started to get closer and his shots started to connect a lot more and the crowd was more into it. And Jacobs was in trouble and that fight started to get a lot closer than what the first half of the fight was telling us. And eventually they gave that win to Ryder. He sucked Jacob into fighting his fight, and Jacob just wasn't moving as well in the second half of the fight. Maybe his legs got a little bit tired and he was not as conditioned. But honestly, man, I feel like Jacob still did enough to win that fight. And I felt like if that fight was away from England, they would have given Jacobs the win. That's just my opinion. You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, but that's just what I think. But nonetheless, it is what it is. John Ryder got the win, a great win on his resume. Now, in his most recent fight against Zach Parker, an undefeated Zach Parker, who at the time hadn't fought in a year, but was more naturally talented than Ryder. But he had never really fought a style like Ryder, a guy that was going to make him earn every single round. And Parker had a good round or two, but it was all Ryder from there. And he was more determined. His mannerisms was just more confident than Parker. And that was a fight that was stopped early in the fourth round. So we didn't really get to see what Ryder was fully like, because it's hard to see someone in 4 rounds. We need a little bit more to see what they were going to really look like going into the second half of the fight and possibly those championship rounds. So I felt like that fight didn't really give us a true test of what Ryder looks like. But if he looks anything like he did against Danny Jacobs, man, you know, he's going to need a lot more of that against Canelo. So who wins? You know, I'm taking Canelo to win the fight. I'm having a hard time seeing how John Ryder is going to win this one. I'm not saying he can't beat Canelo, but you're traveling to Canelo's home country and you're a massive underdog already. There's no way you can beat Canelo by points. I just don't see it. Even if he's losing, I don't know if you're going to get that decision when Canelo's at home on points. So for me, I'm like, yo, Ryder, you got to knock Canelo out. A guy who has not been stopped before, I don't think he's been dropped before either. That's a lot to go into these fights with. And on the other hand, it's like, the question is, can Canelo stop Ryder coming off the surgery? And does he need to get the KO to make a statement? Ryder is a tough cat, man, and Canelo might not stop him. But I think Canelo can get the stoppage, right? And I'm not ruling out a distance play here as well, too. But Canelo will be looking to make a statement in front of his home crowd. Because part of me thinks when Tank was talking about he's the face of boxing, he might take that a little bit more personal. And in this fight, he might say, you know what? I got to remind you guys that I'm still here. So I'm going to take Canelo by stoppage. What are your thoughts on this fight? Who do you have winning this one? Let me know in the comment section below. If you would like to support the channel, there's a couple ways you can do so. You can like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you would like to support by way of donation, you can find options in the description below. Also, my Cash App handle will be on screen as well. Any amount goes towards the growth of this channel and will be greatly, greatly appreciated. Recently just started a membership on the channel. I don't always get to do all of the suggested videos that you guys put in the comments, but if you become a member, those suggested videos rise to the top and I will do my best to make those videos for you. Or if you would just like to be a member to just support the channel, that would be greatly, greatly appreciated as well. Shout out to all of the members supporting the channel already. Shout out to everybody that continues to watch, like, subscribe, share to the channel. I really, really appreciate you as well. So with all that being said, if you've been watching the video this on, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, and we'll definitely see you next time.